In the silence of space, a ship hummed softly, cutting through the void with purpose. Aboard the vessel, a team of Zelari archaeologists approached a sector marked as forbidden in all star charts. The ship's captain, a seasoned Zelari named Thran, eyed the coordinates with a mix of dread and anticipation. "Are we certain about this?" Thran asked, his voice echoing slightly in the command room. Beside him, Kyra, the lead scientist, adjusted the lens of the scanner, her feline eyes narrowing in focus. "The signals were unmistakable, Captain. This could be the discovery of our lifetimes." Thran grunted, unconvinced. "Or our biggest mistake." The team's technician, Lyra, piped up from her station. "I've got visual on something. It looks artificial. Not natural formations, that's sure." The crew gathered around the main screen as an image flickered into clarity. A massive, metallic structure, hidden among asteroids. It was unlike anything in contemporary design, sleek yet distinctly utilitarian, marked with the symbols of a bygone era, Earth. "Humans?" Thran muttered, half in wonder, half in warning. "We're really doing this?" "It's just an exploration, Thran. We're not waking anyone up. We just gather data. That's all," Kyra assured him, her tail flicking with excitement. The team suited up, and soon, they were navigating the eerie corridors of the human stasis vault. The air was stale, the only sound their breathing and the soft thuds of their boots on the metal floor. Elias Mercer's pod was deeper inside, marked as a high-priority subject in the dusty archives they'd unearthed. As they approached, the pod's ancient systems began to whir, lights blinking to life unexpectedly. "Kyra, did you do that?" Lyra asked, her voice tense. "No, I didn't touch." "Look," Thran interrupted, pointing at the pod window. Inside, a figure stirred. A man, unmistakably human, with dark hair and a rugged beard, was slowly opening his eyes. "Shut it down," Thran hissed. "Shut it down now." But it was too late. The pod hissed open, and the man sat up slowly, blinking against the light. His eyes fixed on the aliens before him, wide with confusion and something akin to fear. Where am I?" he croaked, voice rough from disuse. "You're on a ship?" Kyra said, stepping forward, her voice soft, meant to be calming. "You're safe. I'm Kyra, this is Thran and Lyra. You were in stasis." The man, Elias, looked at his hands, then at the strange beings in front of him. "Stasis? How long?" "We're not sure," Lyra admitted. "But it's been centuries, at least." Elias swallowed, his gaze settling on Kyra. "Why did you wake me?" "It was an accident," Thran interjected quickly. "We meant no harm. We're explorers, not soldiers." Elias nodded slowly, absorbing their words, his eyes still wary. "What happened to Earth?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "That's a long story," Kyra replied, taking a cautious step closer. "But you're not alone now. We're here with you." Elias met her gaze, searching for sincerity. Finding it, he let out a slow, shuddering breath. "Okay," he said finally. "Tell me everything." As the team escorted him back to the ship, the weight of history and the uncertainty of the future hung heavily in the air. They had awakened not just a man, but potentially a new era, for better or for worse. Chapter 2. The Last Human. Elias followed the Zelari team through the winding corridors of their ship, each step echoing slightly against the sleek metallic floor. The ship was unlike anything he had imagined. Its design was both elegant and alien, illuminated by soft, bioluminescent panels. Kyra glanced back at him, her expression a mixture of concern and curiosity. "We've arranged a place for you to rest," she said, "and we've gathered some clothing that should fit." Thran, walking beside Elias, seemed more reserved, his ears flicking back occasionally in discomfort. "We need to inform the council about this," he murmured to Kyra, who nodded in agreement. "I know, Thran, but let's give him some space to adjust first," she replied. Elias, overhearing, cleared his throat. "I appreciate your help, But I'm not just going to sit around. I need to understand what's happened since whenever I was put to sleep. Kyra nodded. Of course. Let's get you settled first. Then we can start with what we know about Earth and its history. They arrived at a small room with a view of the stars rushing by. Lyra, who had been quiet until then, stepped forward with some clothes. Here, these should fit. They're standard issue but should be comfortable. Elias accepted them with a nod, his mind racing. Once changed, they convened in the ship's communal area, a room with a large holographic map of the galaxy. As far as history goes, Kyra began, activating the map, which lit up with various symbols and lines. Earth fell into chaos after the Great War. It became uninhabitable and humanity, well, it disappeared. Or so we thought. Elias watched as a section of the map highlighted. And the rest of the humans? He asked. We don't know, Thran admitted. Your stasis pod was the only one we've ever found intact. Kyra continued. There are legends, of course. Some say other humans might have escaped to unknown parts of the galaxy. Others believe that you were the last, preserved in case Earth ever became habitable again. Elias leaned closer to the map, tracing the lines with his finger. And what about these other civilizations? Who are they? Lyra chimed in. The galaxy is now a collection of many species and alliances. The Zelari, like us, are part of the Galactic Council, which maintains peace and order. But not everyone agrees with the Council, Thran added. There are factions and rebels, places where a human, especially one from before, could stir unrest or hope. Elias absorbed their words, the weight of his situation settling in. So what now? Am I a prisoner here? No, not a prisoner, Kyra reassured quickly. But we must proceed with caution. Not everyone will see your awakening as a miracle. Thran nodded. Kyra is right. We need to report this, but we'll argue for your protection. Elias looked between them, a mixture of gratitude and resolve forming. Thank you. I may be out of place in time, but I'm still here. I want to help however I can. Then we'll start with learning, Kyra said with a small smile. You have a lot to catch up on, and we have a lot to learn from you. The group settled into a rhythm over the next few hours, discussing galactic politics, technology, and the major players in the current era. Elias listened intently, his ancient perspective providing unique insights into the discussions. As the meeting drew to a close, Elias stood, looking out at the stars. Whatever happens next, I'm ready to face it. With your help, I think I can find my place here. Kyra and the others nodded, the beginning of a new chapter not just for Elias, but perhaps for the entire galaxy. Chapter 3, Fear and Fascination. As Elias settled into his new reality aboard the Zelari ship, the news of his awakening had already begun to ripple through the galaxy. In the ship's strategy room, a tense discussion unfolded among the crew. Thran paced the length of the room, his tail swishing in agitation. The council has called for an immediate hearing. They're concerned about the implications of Elias' return, he announced. Elias, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. What exactly are they afraid of? Kyra, sitting across from him, responded. You represent an unknown, Elias. Humans were known for their rapid innovations and disruptive nature. Beside her, a new figure, Joram, the ship's communications officer, nodded. There's also fear about more humans in stasis. If one has been found, there could be others. Elias frowned. So, I'm a problem then? Not a problem, Kyra quickly corrected, but a curiosity that needs careful handling. Thran stopped pacing and turned to Elias. We need to prepare you for this hearing. You'll have to speak for yourself, and possibly for your entire species. Elias nodded, understanding the gravity of his role. I'll need information. Everything you can teach me about the current state of galactic politics and the major players involved. That's where I come in, Joram interjected, pulling up data on a screen. First, understand that the Galactic Council is not a single entity, but a complex coalition of multiple species, each with their own interests. As Joram detailed the various factions and their likely reactions to a human resurgence, Elias absorbed the information, asking pointed questions and quickly grasping the delicate balance of power. After hours of preparation, Thran called a break. "Let's get some food in us. We can continue after." In the mess hall, while sharing a meal, Kyra leaned over to Elias. "How are you holding up with all this?" Elias chuckled dryly. "It's a lot. I was just a pilot before, not a diplomat." "You're doing better than you think," Kyra reassured, her tone warm. Thran joined in. "She's right. You have a knack for this. Maybe something from your past life is helping." Elias considered this. "Maybe. Or maybe I just want to make sure I don't start a panic." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert. Joram rushed in, his device in hand. "The council is moving the hearing up. They want to meet Elias immediately." Panic briefly flickered across Elias' face, but he composed himself quickly. "All right, let's go then. No point in delaying." Kyra stood up, her gaze firm. "We'll be with you every step of the way." As they prepared to leave, Elias paused, turning to his companions. "Thank you, all of you, for not just seeing me as a relic, but as a person." Thran clapped him on the shoulder. "You're one of us now, Elias. Let's show them that humans are more than just their history." Together, they returned to the strategy room to finalize their preparations. Elias listened intently to Joram's last-minute advice, determined to present himself as a partner in galactic peace, not a precursor to war. The chapter closed with Elias stepping into a shuttle, ready to face the galaxy not as a curiosity, but as a contributing member of the universal community. Chapter 4. The Forgotten Might. As the shuttle approached the massive, orbiting structure that served as the Galactic Council's headquarters, Elias felt the weight of countless eyes upon him. Inside the shuttle, the tension was palpable. Thran, who had taken on the role of protector as much as captain, briefed Elias one last time. "Remember, the key players here are the Syrians, who lead the council, and the Gelfer, who are always skeptical of any disruptions to the status quo," Thran explained, his gaze locked on the looming structure ahead. Joram added, "And don't underestimate the Yalari. They're smaller in number but influential in technology and science. They'll be very interested in human technology." Elias nodded, taking in every detail. "And our strategy?" "Transparency," Kyra chimed in, her voice steady. "Show them that you're an open book, that there's nothing to fear." The shuttle docked, and the doors hissed open to reveal a bustling hub of activity. Aliens of various species moved about, their conversations a blend of different languages and sounds. Thran led the way, his posture rigid with formality. They were greeted by a Syrian delegate, a tall, slender figure with luminous skin. "Welcome, Elias Mercer of Earth," the delegate intoned, its voice echoing slightly in the vast entry hall. "I am Scylla, your liaison for the proceedings." "Thank you for having me," Elias replied, extending his hand in a human gesture of greeting. Scylla looked at Elias's hand, then mimicked the gesture, its touch light and brief. "This way, please. The council is ready to receive you." As they walked through the corridors, Elias observed the grandeur and complexity of the council chambers. The architecture was a blend of many cultures, each section reflecting the aesthetic of its creators. They arrived at a large door, beyond which lay the council chamber. Scylla paused. "Are you prepared?" "As I'll ever be," Elias said, taking a deep breath. The doors opened to a vast, circular room, with the council members seated in a tiered formation. The atmosphere was charged, a mix of curiosity and caution directed toward the human who stood at the center. Elias stepped forward, Thran and Kyra flanking him. He looked up at the assembled members, their varied eyes fixed on him. "Members of the Galactic Council," Elias began, his voice steady. "I stand before you not as a threat, but as a representative of Earth, a planet and a people long forgotten." A Gelfer representative, a bulky figure with a chitinous exterior, interrupted. "Why should we believe that you represent no danger? Humanity was known for its warlike tendencies." Elias met the representative's gaze. I understand the fear, but I was awakened by accident, not by design. I am here to learn, to adapt, and to contribute. Joram projected images of Earth's history, its rise, and its fall onto the central hologram. Elias was a pilot, a peacemaker among his people, Joram explained. He can be a bridge between our worlds. The Yulari representative, small and agile with bright eyes, leaned forward. And what of human technology? You advanced rapidly. What can you offer? Elias responded, knowledge, cooperation. Earth made many mistakes. Perhaps those lessons can benefit the Council. The debate continued, with questions about Earth's culture, technology, and intentions. Elias answered each as best he could, Thran and Kyra providing support. Finally, the Syrian delegate raised a hand for silence. It appears there is much to consider. We shall deliberate and return with our decision. Until then, Elias Mercer of Earth, you shall remain under the protection of the Zelari. As they left the chamber, Elias exhaled deeply, feeling the initial wave of scrutiny begin to wane. How did I do? He asked, looking to his friends. You were excellent, Kyra assured him with a smile. They saw the human, not the myth. Thran nodded in agreement. You've given them a lot to think about. For now, that's the best we could hope for. As they returned to their shuttle, Elias felt a cautious optimism. He had faced the galaxy's leaders and held his ground. Whatever the decision, he had begun to forge a new path for himself, and potentially for all of humanity. Chapter 5. The Spark Between Us. Back on the Zelari ship, the atmosphere was less tense but filled with cautious optimism. Elias found himself frequently at the ship's observation deck, gazing at the stars, contemplating his place among them. Kyra often joined him, bringing updates and documents for him to study. During one such evening, as they watched a nebula bloom in distant space, Kyra broached a subject they had avoided. Elias, back on Earth, what was it like before everything changed? Elias turned from the window, his face illuminated by the soft glow of starlight. It was vibrant, chaotic, beautiful, and brutal all at once. We were just starting to see the potential for real peace when his voice trailed off, lost in memories. Kyra nodded, her ears flicking in empathy. It sounds like it was wonderful and difficult. It was, Elias admitted, then smiled slightly. But I had people I cared about, projects I was passionate about. It wasn't all bad. The conversation drifted to lighter topics, their shared laughter echoing softly in the room. It was during these moments that Elias noticed the subtle way Kyra's fur bristled with excitement or how her tail swished when she was particularly animated. He found himself drawn to these small displays of her emotions. One evening, as they parted ways after a long discussion about galactic politics, Elias felt a compelling urge to express his gratitude. He reached out, hesitating just a moment before gently grasping her hand. Kyra, thank you for everything. Kyra looked down at their joined hands, then back up at Elias with a soft purr that vibrated lightly in her throat. I should be thanking you, Elias. Your perspective, your experiences, they're invaluable. Their eyes met, and there was a charged pause as they stood closer than before. Slowly, driven by a mutual understanding, Elias leaned in. Kyra met him halfway, and their lips touched lightly. The kiss was tentative at first but grew more confident as they both acknowledged the connection that had been forming between them. When they finally parted, both were slightly breathless. I wasn't sure if... Elias cut her off with a gentle smile. I wasn't sure either, but I'm glad we did that. Kyra's cheeks flushed a deeper shade, her eyes shining with a mix of surprise and delight. So am I. From that night, their relationship deepened, intertwining their professional and personal lives. They continued their collaborations on various projects, with Elias bringing his human insights and Kyra providing her deep knowledge of the galaxy. Their evenings were spent sharing stories of their worlds, learning from each other, and exploring the nuances of their growing bond. Thran noticed the change in their dynamics during a strategy meeting. After the session, he pulled Elias aside. You and Kyra seem close. Just be cautious, Elias. Emotions can complicate missions. Elias nodded, understanding the captain's concerns. I appreciate it, Thran. We're being careful. But it's genuine what we have. Good, Thran replied, clapping Elias on the shoulder. That's all I needed to hear. As the days progressed, the couple faced no shortage of challenges, from navigating their cultural differences to dealing with the ongoing negotiations with the Galactic Council. Yet, each obstacle seemed to strengthen their resolve rather than deter them. Their story, a testament to the power of connection across species, became a subtle undercurrent to the political maneuvers and alliances forming around them. In a universe brimming with uncertainty, their bond offered a rare kind of certainty, a shared experience that transcended species and history, grounded in moments of understanding and affection shared under the stars. Chapter 6. The Universe Watches. As news of Elias and Kyra's relationship began to spread beyond the confines of their ship, reactions across the galaxy varied from supportive to skeptical. Within the Galactic Council, the bond between human and Zelari was viewed under a microscope, stirring discussions about alliances, trust, and the integration of Earth into galactic affairs. In the central meeting room of the Zelari ship, Elias and Thran reviewed the latest dispatches from the Council. They're calling for another session, Thran announced, his tone laced with frustration. They want to discuss the human factor and its implications. Elias, who had been studying a holographic model of the Council's latest treaty proposals, sighed. It sounds like they're more worried about me than about actual threats. It's not just about you, Thran replied, looking at Elias with a serious expression. It's about what you represent. Change, Elias. Rapid, unpredictable change. At that moment, Joram entered, a digital tablet in his hand. There's more, he said, handing the tablet to Elias. There are factions within the Council who see your relationship with Kyra as a symbol. Some are calling it a bridge between, and muttered, but we'll stand by you, both of you. Later that day, Elias and Kyra met in the ship's garden, a quiet area with lush, alien flora, designed to provide a peaceful retreat. Elias relayed the morning's developments, watching Kyra as she listened intently, her face a mask of concern. We knew it wouldn't be easy, Kyra finally said, reaching for his hand. But knowing that doesn't make it any less daunting. Elias squeezed her hand gently. Whatever comes, we face it together. That's what matters. As they talked, planning their approach for the upcoming council session, they were unaware of the quiet observation from other members of their crew. The consensus among them was clear. Elias and Kyra's union was more than a personal connection. It was becoming a political statement. The next day brought a new challenge. A delegation from the Yulari approached the Zelari ship, requesting a meeting with Elias and Kyra. They were escorted to the conference room, where the Yulari leader, a nimble creature named Celise, spoke openly. We've come to offer support, Celise said, her voice melodic yet firm. Your union could pave the way for greater understanding between species. We believe this should be celebrated, not scrutinized with suspicion. Elias looked at Kyra, a flicker of hope passing between them. Thank you, Celise. We appreciate the Yulari's openness. As discussions continued, Elias and Kyra presented a united front, discussing their views on interspecies relations and the potential benefits of their bond. Their words resonated with the Yulari, who agreed to advocate on their behalf. Back in their quarters, Elias and Kyra reviewed the day's events. It feels like we're part of something bigger than us, Elias mused, staring out the window at the stars. Kyra nodded, leaning against him. Maybe we are. Maybe this is how change begins. Not with grand gestures, but with simple acts of understanding and love. Their conversation was interrupted by a call from Thran. The council has moved up the hearing date. It's tomorrow. Elias and Kyra exchanged a determined look. Let's show them what we're made of, Elias said confidently. As they prepared for what was to come, the universe indeed watched, eager to see how the story of the human and the Zelari would unfold. Chapter 7: The Awakening. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with an uneasy energy. Delegates from multiple species had gathered, their eyes fixed on Elias as he stood in the center of the room. Kyra was beside him, her presence a silent statement of unity. Thran and Joram flanked them, ready for whatever came next. A Syrian elder, his bioluminescent skin pulsing in slow waves, addressed the room. Elias Mercer, your existence has caused much debate. Some believe your presence signals an opportunity, while others fear it disrupts the order we have built. Elias took a step forward, his gaze steady. I am not here to disrupt anything. I woke up in a world I don't recognize, surrounded by people who see my kind as a legend or a threat. All I want is to understand where humanity stands in this new age. A Gelfer, her hardened exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's lights, leaned forward. And if more humans were to be awakened, would they accept the peace we have fought for, or would they seek to claim what was once theirs? Elias exhaled slowly. I can't speak for those who might still be out there. I don't even know if any other humans survived. But I do know that history is filled with both destruction and cooperation. The choice, as always, depends on how we meet each other. Kyra stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. Elias has shown no aggression, no interest in conflict. He has spent his time learning, understanding, and helping. That should speak for itself. Celise, the Yalari representative, tapped her fingers together thoughtfully. There is another question to consider. Elias, if you had the chance to wake your people, would you? Silence settled over the chamber. The weight of the question pressed against Elias like a physical force. Finally, he spoke. I don't know, he admitted. Humanity was powerful, but we were flawed. I would need to know if the galaxy is ready for us, if we are ready for it. The room erupted into murmurs, some voices filled with unease, others with curiosity. A deep, rumbling voice cut through the noise. And if the decision were yours alone? The speaker was an imposing figure from the Council's most secretive faction, a race known for their silent observations rather than their words. Elias squared his shoulders. Then I would wake them only if I believed it was right. Not out of fear, not for conquest, but because the time had come for humanity to take its place. Not as rulers, but as partners. The chamber fell into hushed deliberation. The council retreated for a private discussion, leaving Elias and his team waiting in the antechamber. Thran crossed his arms. That was a dangerous answer. It was the truth, Elias replied. Kyra placed a hand on his arm. Whatever happens, you've shown them what kind of person you are. That matters. Joram's console beeped. They're calling us back in. The group returned to the chamber, where the Syrian elder once again addressed them. We have decided that Elias Mercer will not be confined, nor will he be placed under surveillance. However, should evidence of more human survivors emerge, the council must be consulted before any action is taken. Elias inclined his head. I understand. The session was dismissed, and as they walked toward their ship, Kyra let out a deep breath. That could have gone worse. Thran gave a small chuckle. Could have gone better too. Elias smiled faintly. At least we have a future to figure out. Back on the ship, they sat together in the dim glow of the observation deck. Kyra leaned against Elias, her warmth a grounding presence. If we do find them, the others like you, what will you do? Elias traced idle circles against her furred hand. I guess I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Kyra tilted her head, watching him closely. And if I said that no matter what happens, I want to be there when you do? Elias turned toward her, his expression soft. Then I'd say I can't imagine doing it without you. She leaned in, her lips brushing his with gentle warmth. It was a quiet moment, but one filled with meaning. The universe had thrown them together, and whatever came next, they would face it side by side. Chapter 8: The New Future. The ship drifted in the quiet vastness of space, far from the political chaos of the Galactic Council. Elias stood at the edge of the observation deck, arms crossed as he gazed out at the stars. So much had changed in such a short time. The weight of the council's decision still sat heavy on his shoulders. But for the first time since waking, he felt like he belonged somewhere. Kyare approached from behind, her steps light, but he knew she was there before she spoke. "You're thinking too much again." Elias huffed a quiet laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's hard not to. I keep replaying everything that happened at the hearing. What if there are more humans? What if they don't want peace? What if?" Kyare stopped him with a gentle press of her fingers against his arm. "Elias, you can't plan for every possibility. You said it yourself, you'll face things as they come." He turned to her, his gaze searching hers. "And you? Are you ready for whatever comes next?" Kyare smirked. "I told you before. I'm not going anywhere." Before Elias could respond, Thran's voice crackled over the comms. "We've picked up a signal. You both need to see this." Elias and Kyare exchanged a look before making their way to the command center. Joram had already pulled up a display, his fingers tapping rapidly against the control panel. "It's weak, but it's human," he announced. "Coordinates are coming through now." Elias felt his pulse quicken. "How far?" "Not far," Joram said, pointing to a section of the map. "It's deep in a restricted sector, but we can get there in a few days." Thran exhaled sharply. "The council isn't going to like this." Kyare folded her arms. "They don't have to. They gave us a choice. If we find more humans, we report it. That doesn't mean we can't investigate first." Elias looked at the blinking dot on the screen, feeling the weight of it settle in his chest. "I need to know," he said. "If it's them, if they've been waiting this whole time, I need to be the one who finds them." Thran studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Then let's not waste time." The ship moved into action, its engines humming as it adjusted course. Elias stayed at the console, eyes locked on the coordinates. He wasn't sure what he'd find, but whatever it was, he wouldn't face it alone. Later that evening, he and Kyare sat in the dim light of his quarters. The usual hum of the ship felt distant as he traced circles along the back of her hand. "You don't have to go with me," he murmured. Kyare scoffed. "You know I'm not letting you do this alone." Elias chuckled, shaking his head. "I had to say it." She leaned in, brushing her lips against his. "And I had to remind you that you're not alone anymore." He held her close, the warmth of her presence calming the whirlwind in his mind. No matter what lay ahead, no matter what history had buried, they would face it together. As the ship sped toward the unknown, Elias felt something he hadn't in a long time. Not certainty, not control, but something close to peace.